Welcome to Dig Deep, the mining podcast. In this podcast, we go deep into mining news, hot topics, and live interviews with mining professionals and leading figures in the mining industry. Introducing your host, Rob Tyson, founder and director of Mining International and Mining International Executive, a leading global mining recruitment and headhunting agency.
Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast. And today's guest is Roshan Pujari, who's the founder and executive chairman of Stardust Power, who are a company that develops and operates lithium projects in the US to meet the growing demand for electric vehicles and energy storage. They are developing a strategic located lithium refinery in Oklahoma in the US, capable of producing up to 50,000 tons annually of battery-grade lithium. Roshan has over 20 years of analyst and deal-making experience and is the founder and CEO of VIKASA Capital, which he oversees the firm's energy transition business. Roshan's going to explain the strategic outlook for Stardust Power, talk about the US energy transition, and what they're focusing their activities in Oklahoma. So Roshan, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Rob. How are you doing today?
I'm good. This is a Friday. We're recording this on a Friday, so it's the end of the week before I have to go and pick up my kids from school. So yeah, why don't we start with, if you can tell us a little bit about your career, how you got into the mining industry, and then we can go and talk about Stardust and go into more details around the company. So hand it over.
Thanks, Rob. And, first, I got to say, thanks so much for having me on Digging Deep today. I've been a fan of the podcast, so being on it is a great honor. So appreciate that today.
My pleasure.
So, as a way of introduction, I'm really an entrepreneur. I got that bug early in my life, in my 20s after university, and, got into the commodities business. And in my early days as a mean of expansion, I started VIKASA Capital, a boutique investment firm, and we started our journey investing in India. It was a market I knew, it was a market we could add value, created a foreign direct investment route using Mauritius as a hub. And, it was a great experience. We invested over $2 billion. And in 2018, we began diversifying our platform and started investing here in the United States. And from there, a lithium deal came across my desk. And, to be honest, I didn't really know that much about lithium in 2018. And I knew that we needed a lot of it for the energy transition. We spent a couple of years understanding the market, understanding the opportunity. And we wound up making an investment in a large industrial metals complex. And from there, we built up our technical ability to perform due diligence to get deep deal flow. I started working with a co-founder and chief technical officer of Stardust, Pablo Cortegoso, while he was at SRK. And Pablo is a real leader in the space. He's done the due diligence on so many of these assets, the GLE technology. At VIKASA, we did a small fund, $50 million, made multiple investments. And then from there, that's where we really saw a need for a North American refining company. We saw a lot of investment going upstream into raw material production, a lot more discoveries found in the US and North America in general. But the critical gap in the supply chain was really refining capacity. So that's when we saw the need for an operating company, and hence Stardust Power.
So I wonder if you can just go into and give us a snapshot of Stardust Power, and I suppose what makes you unique.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, our strategy is to build a really big lithium refinery, what could be North America's largest one. And we're strategically locating it right in the center of the country in Oklahoma, in Muskogee, Oklahoma. And, that strategic advantage of being in the center of the country gives us proximity to multiple sources of input as well as offtake. And so the technological innovation that we're adding is we're optimizing this large central refinery for multiple sources of brine input, so we can aggregate supply and scale manufacturing of battery grade lithium products to 50,000 tons once at full capacity. Our shovel-ready site's already linked to major highway, major rail, and sits on the largest inland waterway system in the United States. So we see a real advantages not being dependent on single assets, diversifying that risk, aggregating supply so we can get a lot of it, and then we can continue to scale manufacturing. And we don't see anything like this being developed in North America or really outside of China. So we think it's an important part of the supply chain. And it's also important because it helps unlock the upstream supply chain. So raw material developers or producers that might have assets that might not justify $1 billion in cash for a conversion facility can still find a safe harbor for their products, and in North America as well.
Can you speak about obviously the energy transition that's happening in the US right now, and why domestically sourced and refined lithium, I suppose, is a priority for the country?
Yeah, that is a great question. So, we're in this energy transition. We're electrifying the global economy. And, every day I think we see why this is more and more important as we see climate change wreaking havoc on the earth. And so what we see is approximately 30% of emissions, global emissions, are from the transportation industry. So, or the sector, I should say. So, the transition to electric vehicles is an important one to fight this climate change, to enter this new phase. And also globally, there's been a lot more geopolitical risk. There's a lot more tensions with the United States and China as a lot of people fear the worst. And part of that has been this escalation for critical materials. China has been very aggressive in onshoring producing or manufacturing critical materials essential to the EV transitions, from lithium, but also graphite and cobalt. And the US has been asleep at the wheel for a few decades now. And we see the importance for now onshoring this manufacturing ability. The US has a lot of reserves of lithium. Some studies say up to, the fourth largest reserves in the world, 17% of the global market. So it's important that we do things here in the US for the security of our energy transition, for the security of our nation, the security of the military, who's largely dependent on handheld electronic devices. So it's important that we bring these jobs home. We set up more manufacturing in here and work with building a resilient American supply chain.
Why is sustainability so important in obviously mining operations and decision making, and how will Stardust embrace sustainable practices?
At Stardust Power, sustainability is built into each step of our process, and it's an important value for us. So first, from our choice of lithium brine over hard rock for these first two trains. Brine has a smaller environmental footprint, carbon footprint. And then when we think about our midstream refinery, we're designing all of our trains as electric. So the production lines do not produce air emission. We're designing them with a zero liquid discharge technology. So there's not water discharge. So we're not polluting into the rivers or municipal water systems. In fact, our byproduct is largely salt. And then also, in Oklahoma, there is a lot of sustainable power on the grid at any given day, up to 70%. So we can source, power from wind and solar and natural gas to sustainably power our refinery. And, it's great that we live in market conditions where we believe we'll be rewarded for being sustainable in our practice outside the inherent good of producing less pollution.
You chose Oklahoma as the site for your refinery. I just wanted you to just tell us a little bit about why you chose this site, and also, I suppose, a little bit about Oklahoma for those outside of the US or even North America that may not know much about.
Yeah, Oklahoma has been a great home for Stardust Power. So, a little bit about Oklahoma. It is a unique area, often called Native America, because of the large Native American Indian population, which is a part of the heritage there. So, in I think 1889, There was the Great Land Run, which some people might have seen in the movies, and people lined up and got property. And overnight, Oklahoma City was born, and then Tulsa and other areas coming there soon after. So it really has that pioneer spirit, and that creates innovation and ingenuity. Oklahoma is a legacy energy producer that really understands the energy market. In fact, there is in Cushing, Oklahoma, helps set the world prices for light sweet crude because a lot of the sovereign nations send their strategic reserves there in Oklahoma. So Oklahoma has always been at the crossroads of US American leadership in the energy sector. And we think it's important to continue that in the future. So Oklahoma is very industry friendly. It's a great place to start a new business. For example, the Oklahoma Department of Commerce gave us an analysis of over $250 million in largely state incentives for us to develop our facility there. So great partnership with the government and the governor there, and it's really been a good home. And the local communities in Muskogee have been incredibly supportive. We're in constant dialogue with them, and we really believe in being a strong member of the community. So, if there's something going on in Muskogee, you might see one of our team, John Reisenberg. He's in the community all the time, great relationships, and it helps with the enormous amount of jobs we're bringing. So really good place, strategically located, but also a really good culture there. And to be fully transparent, I grew up in Oklahoma. I live in Connecticut now, but still great relationships there, still family. Both my daughters were born in Oklahoma, so it's a place that is meaningful to me.
Yeah. And I suppose moving on from obviously the community that you just mentioned, how are they welcoming Stardust Power? I mean, what are their thoughts on what you're looking to achieve?
It has been overwhelming, the support we have gotten. And so one thing, we think about is, aligning over the next few years to train and educate a workforce for the new generation of jobs, these green jobs in the energy transition. And Oklahoma already has really skilled workforce especially in oil and gas engineering. So when we're thinking about lithium brine and manufacturing, there's a symmetry and an alignment to that industry. So we see the opportunity to cross-train this great workforce they already have. Our site in Muskogee is only 40 minutes outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma. So it's a great for a live-play balance. And then, we've been working a lot with the local institutions, whether it's technical schools, universities, community colleges, and et cetera, in thinking about curriculum that we can add and how we can be helpful. And so as we scale up, as we ramp up to commissioning, we can work hand in hand and keep a lot of these jobs in Oklahoma.
Stardust Power has obviously achieved a lot in such a small amount of time. I just wonder if you can tell our audience a little bit about some of your recent milestones and I suppose what upcoming catalysts are that the company going to be focusing on.
Yeah, thank you for the kind words. And we have been moving quickly at Stardust Power, and we think it's important to do that in a risk managed fashion because of the need of these critical materials. So, we want to move appropriately, but we really want to move fast. So, we as a private company, we continue to fundraise, and we did a FEL level 1 engineering, and we were able to create a roadmap for the progress of our site, identify and engage with strategic partners from an offtake perspective, from a supply perspective, technical ability. And then really happy to say on July 8th of this year, we went public on the NASDAQ, ticker symbol SDST. And that was an important catalyst of our event because now, today we have over $550 million of public equity backing our proposal. And, we really saw the opportunity to be a public company so we can vertically integrate, so we can acquire raw material production, we can acquire technologies that will help drive the supply chain by leveraging that public equity. And that has been a very successful strategy, and we look forward to sharing some more information on that front with you. And the ahead. So it's been a great experience for us. So now the next steps for us are we're racing towards the start of major construction of our facility in Muskogee. So that means concurrently we're getting together all the pieces for that FID, from permitting, working with the DEQ in Oklahoma, great relationship there. So we believe we're very close to that process, from definitive supply upstream, from sourcing the technology across the supply chain, project finance, working with some of the leading banks in the world on that front, and importantly, commercially, for a definitive offtake agreement, which is potentially a multi-billion-dollar agreement. And, really, while we have commitment for multiples of what we could produce at full capacity already, we're really excited about completing a definitive agreement with a well-respected offtake. Happy to share that information with you as soon as it comes online. So the next couple of quarters, really good ones and busy ones, but we'll meet major milestones often.
What are some of the guiding principles for you obviously?
Yeah, we really think about stewardship a lot. Stewardship of the the environment, because we're moving this energy transition, which is a critical importance. Stewards of our site in Oklahoma from community perspective, that we want to be a strong partner in the community. We want to do things efficiently and sustainability. Stewards of American energy leadership, which is so important to our national security posture overall. Stewards to our stakeholders, those who are shareholders and others that are important partner in this transition. And as money managers, as company managers, we want to be very thoughtful that all should benefit. So, we have a strong business plan that's very unique and innovative, and we have the roadmap laid out for it. So as we continue executing on our business plan, we want to focus on the values that are important to us, stewardship in all those different areas.
And lastly, what's the next 6 to 12 months look like for yourself and Stardust Power?
Yeah, really great time coming ahead, especially as our life as a public company has been well. Happy to report that, the market that our share price has been buoyant and getting strong, positive reaction from the market. So the next steps for us is to finish our FEL3 engineering study, or definitive engineering study. We're doing that right now. We've engaged Primero USA to do that process. They're a great partner. They have a lot of experience and expertise in, especially the American lithium conversion space. And we're doing our permitting. We've outlined the few permits that really required, because our facility is so sustainable. There's not a lot of big permitting required. We're working with the DEQA on that one. And then commercial agreements, including technology agreements. And we're looking forward to doing a groundbreaking in Q4. Rob will have to bring you out there and show you all about Oklahoma, and then really start major construction after the end of the definitive engineering. We call first half of next year. Hopefully we can start as early as Q.
Yeah, great. And I will take you up on that offer in coming out to Oklahoma. So watch out. I'll be coming out there. Roshan, really appreciate your time. Thank you for giving us an overview of Stardust Power, what you're looking to achieve. Obviously help the US energy transition, and obviously great and exciting things ahead. And hopefully you can come onto the podcast during the course of next year, once things are started moving forward, and give us an update.
I would love to. I'd love to join you again and host you out in Oklahoma. I look forward to that. Thanks,
great. If our audience wants to reach out to you, if they've got any questions, if they want to follow Stardust Power's story and progress, how can they go about doing that? What social media platform channels are you on, so people can see what you're up to?
Yeah, thank you. We're on LinkedIn, where we're quite active, and we have an X, formerly known as Twitter. You can always reach us at info@Stardust Power, and sign up for our newsletter via our website. And, if you want to connect me with LinkedIn, I'll do my best to respond as well. So look forward to hearing from you.
Right. Roshan, really appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing your story, and we will speak soon.
Thanks, Rob. Great to be with you today.
Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Again, as always, stress, please share these episodes far and wide. And it's not just people within our mining industry, it's people outside of the mining industry. Obviously, the energy transition is slowly coming into play. And as Roshan's just explained, they're making big, huge moves in this space in the US. So we want everyone to be educated within our industry and people outside of our industry, what is happening, so we can move forward with the energy transition. Thank you for listening. And until next time, happy mining.
Thank you for listening. Remember to reach out to Rob via the show notes and be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, happy mining, helping each other to improve the mining industry.